So if we learned anything through March Madness, look out for the Angry Beavers. Oregon State has been the underdog since the season started, even the preseason, but lately they proved everybody wrong, messed up everybody's bracket. They won the Pac-12 title, first time in school history. Didn't stop there, upset Tennessee, Oklahoma State, and Cade Cunningham. Now in the Sweet 16. This squad, remember, they started the season, the first 20 games, 10-10. That doesn't matter because apparently March brings the best out of all of us. Looking at the odds when we talk about the Pac-12, USC with the best 25-1. Then you got Oregon. We saw what they did to Luka Garza, and Iowa did 30-1. UCLA, and then no respect for Oregon State coming in at 60-1, according to our friends at William Hill there. All right, to help us shed a little light in the Pac-12 and what's been in the Kool-Aid here, our Gary Parrish tapping in this morning. And let's talk about the Beavers here for a second. Oregon State 8-1 their last 9 games. What's been the key for them to reach the Sweet 16 for the first time in 39 years, Gary?
Well, I don't mean to oversimplify it, but simply put, they're just playing their best basketball at the perfect time of the year. In that round of 64 game, they shot 48% from three-point range. That's a good place to start. And then when they got to the second round, they took advantage of a less than good Cade Cunningham performance. I mean, this is a young man at Oklahoma State who is projected to be the #1 overall pick in the 2021 NBA draft. And he had his moments, but he wasn't good. 6 of 20 from the field. If you're Oregon State, you do your best to take advantage of it. They did, and so now they are one of 4 Pac-12 teams in the Sweet 16, which is probably the biggest surprise of this NCAA tournament because none of these Pac-12 teams that are still alive were even top 5 seeds in the bracket. They have all overcome lower expectations to get where they're at right now.
Hey, you see it there, first Sweet 16 since 1982. Fun fact there, Gary, I wasn't even a thought or born when that last happened for them. So kudos to Oregon State making it that far. Of course, they'll play Loyola and the Ramblers. They've been hot. We've seen how that's panned out. What about UCLA? First time they've been at this point since 2017. Mick Cronin, you like what he's doing so far with the Bruins?
Love what he's doing so far with the Bruins. I mean, you have to understand that this UCLA team that he's rolling with right now isn't close to the UCLA team he was supposed to have. First and foremost, he's got a 5-star point guard who was a likely one and done, big guard who could really see the floor and pass, who decided to go to the G League program. That's Dacian Nix. That's somebody who was supposed to be on this UCLA roster who just isn't. That's a blow. Then he lost his best player to a torn ACL middle of the season. Then he lost another rotation player to personal issues mid-season. And if things would have fell apart right then, that would have made perfect sense. But Mick has really pieced this thing together in a pretty remarkable way. And I'll be honest, I don't rule anything out in this NCAA tournament, but I didn't think they'd get past Michigan State in the first 4. Then I was, I gave them a chance against BYU, but I didn't necessarily predict it. So they lost a lot of important pieces that they were supposed to have for different reasons. But they added Johnny Juzang, who is a California young man who decided to, out of high school, go all the way across the country to Kentucky. And he mostly sat on Kentucky's bench last season. He played like 12 minutes a game, averaged around 3 points per game. He has been a star at UCLA this season, but especially in this NCAA tournament. Reminds me a little bit of Cal Wiltshire, who once upon a time out of high school went to Kentucky, had a more meaningful role at UK than Juzang did, but still decided to transfer back to the West Coast, went to Gonzaga, and became a first-team All-American. To be clear, Johnny Juzang is not a first-team All-American right now, but he is playing like one right now, and he could be one next season, and he has been by far the most important player to, as it pertains to UCLA, giving itself a chance to go to yet another Final Four in that strong tradition that school possesses.
Gary, if you're looking out there, you want to go to school in LA, you don't have to go to UCLA. You could say USC as well. They just put up 34 against Kansas. We've seen Evan Mobley kind of mold into this top 5 or top 3 pick. What have the Trojans been doing up to this point for you?
Well, they've been riding Evan Mobley. I mean, that's the most important thing. I mean, he is a phenomenal talent and a phenomenal player. And I say both of those things because they're very different things. So often in college basketball, we have people who are great prospects, but they're not great players. They just look like somebody or measure a certain way or run a certain way or jump a certain way that makes you think, oh boy, this person could be nice at the next level. but they're just whatever college basketball players. Evan Mobley is the opposite of that. Evan Mobley is a terrific prospect. Somebody who I think definitely goes in the top 5 and could maybe go as high as number 1, depending on how the rest of this NCAA tournament unfolds. So he's a terrific prospect, but he's also a great player. Pac-12 Player of the Year, Pac-12 Freshman of the Year, Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year. So he can score around the rim, he can step away from the basket, make a shot, he can rim protect. I first saw him when he was in high school, maybe as a sophomore, and I remember sitting with Mark Fox, who was at the time out of the sport. He was in between the Georgia job and the Cal job, and he had worked a camp with Evan Mobley, and I'll give Fox credit. He predicted at this point, he said that'll be a future number 1 pick in the NBA draft. And though it might not be exactly right, it's pretty close to true if it's not true. And so, I know sometimes people ask, well, how did he end up at USC? Because that's not a place where, prospects like this usually go. And the answer is that Andy Enfield hired his father to get him to enroll. And this was something that was controversial maybe 30 years ago, 20 years ago, but it's not anymore. It's a very normal thing in college basketball. When somebody asked me once, do you think it was smart for Andy to hire Evan Mobley and Isaiah Mobley's father to get the Mobley brothers? I was like, you could have hired his father, his mother, his cousin, sister, unborn child. Whatever you had to do to get that done, it was worth it. And as we look up now in USC in the Sweet 16 with a real chance to go to a Final Four, undeniably, hiring whoever you had to hire to get Evan Mobley was definitely worth it.
I agree on that. It'd be interesting to see if they can get past Oregon and play Gonzaga to see how he stacks up against the number 1 team in the country. But, of course, you have to beat Oregon. We just saw what they did to Luka Garza last round there. You look at this squad, it's a transfer-heavy roster, a lot of vets. And when we're in an era where there's the one-and-dones, what has been working so far for the Ducks at this point?
They just got healthy. Their top 5 scorers combined to miss 20 games in the regular season. Will Richardson missed a whole bunch of those, but now they are mostly healthy. I mean, they're not going to get N'Faly Dante back. He is a former 5-star center who suffered a knee injury in the season. He's done for the season, but he's been done for a while, and they've otherwise been healthy, and they've been operating at a really high level. I know the seed doesn't suggest excellence, but these are the outright Pac-12 champions, and they are long across the board. The starting lineup is nothing but 6'5" and above. So they're long, they're athletic. They ran away from Iowa. And I think, honestly, even though I firmly believe Gonzaga is going to be our national champion, Oregon could be a difficult matchup for them just because they're long and athletic, and they're going to be able to match tempo with the Zags if we get to that game. But this Oregon team, 12-3 now with Will Richardson in the lineup. That's the simplest explanation for this. I predicted back in February that Oregon would be underseeded based on the resume they presented because the committee wouldn't take into account enough the fact that they lost a lot of those games when they didn't have the team that they have right now. The team they have right now is excellent and again, capable of winning this Sweet 16 game. And then, if it materializes, capable of playing with Gonzaga. And that's not something I say about most teams in the country, even most teams in this Sweet 16. I'm not sure most teams in the Sweet 16 can play with Gonzaga. I think Oregon maybe can.
Yeah, they have that offense where they can shoot the lights out. We saw that against Luka Garza and crew there. Gary, quick question. How much sleep have you been getting lately?
How much what?
Sleep. How much sleep have you been getting? We got a few days before the next round. Are you catching up on your sleep a little bit?
No, is the honest answer. I was working late nights in New York at CBS Sports Network, and then Matt Norlander and I recording overnight episodes of the Eye on College Basketball podcast. So for about the past, week, I've been falling asleep between 4 and 4:30. Got a little better than that last night because I am finally back home. But I'm back on an airplane, what's today, Wednesday? Tomorrow, New York for the Sweet 16 and Elite 8, and then straight to Indy for the Final Four. So this is a fun time of the year, but it's a hard time of the year. But man, there's nothing else I'd rather be doing. This is good stuff.
All right, Gary Parrish tapping as always. Look, sleep is overrated. Appreciate your time. He just mentioned you can catch him on the Eye of College Basketball podcast along with Matt Norlander, the guys breaking down the Sweet 16s, the Oral Roberts of the world, the Oregon States of the world. Put some respect on the teams because maybe one of those are definitely going to the Final Four. Download and subscribe and catch the fellas and tune in.
Want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.